Hello, good morning. Thank you for joining in on our webinar this morning regarding our HydraWrap structural composite repair system. My name is Jennifer Williams. I have Caleb, and I also have our engineer Mike with us for any questions at the end. We are part of the sales and marketing team here at HydraTech. I will run through the PowerPoint presentation, and at the end of it, we will field any questions that you may have.
Oh, that's fine.
We're talking about the HydraWrap structural composite repair system. It is engineered to restore or enhance the structural integrity of pipe and infrastructure. Each HydraWrap product is a uniquely designed high-performance system that consists of primer, wet out, and the carbon fiber fabric. What is the carbon fiber?
A lot of newer technologies use it because it's a all carbon fiber filament that is woven together into a fabric that's stronger and lighter than steel, and because of that, it's used in aerospace, aircraft, and automotive industries. And now it's being used for structural repairs as well.
HydraWrap can be used to repair gas pipelines, industrial process pipelines and tanks, marine and underwater pipeline and bulkheads, concrete confinement, and strengthening. We do have different widths, weaves, and weights that can be supplied. We do have information, an evaluation information sheet that we will discuss later that will need to be filled out for certain applications.
So we actually got to recently get out of the office and work with HydraWrap ourselves. So we got to install it. I got to actually put it on some stuff and, get out sort of in the field and do it. So, we have to prep the pipe itself, make sure the surface is clean, but also it has enough texture to it that it can adhere. And then you cover the whole surface in a high build primer. And then you wet out the actual fabric itself with a low viscosity, non-pigmented resin blend, which will then later dry and basically give the hardness and the shape to the fabric when it's applied.
The product lines that we offer are standard, elevated temperature, high temperature, acid resistant, subsea, E-system, and marine.
The names are all pretty self-explanatory. They have a little description there, but don't worry if you don't read it all in time. We're going to go a little bit into depth of each of them so you get a better idea of what they all do.
This is our standard, which is designed for temperatures not to exceed 100 degrees. The elevated temperature is not to exceed temperatures of 215. The high temperature provides for structural repair for applications up to 347 degrees.
Yeah.
The acid resistant basically is for applications where the HydraWrap will come in contact with aggressive acids. Subsea basically is self-explanatory. Anything that contains moisture or will be completely submerged. E-system is for utilizing the fiberglass, not the carbon.
So each HydraWrap system is chemically formulated to meet the engineered designs criteria and are tested extensively to ensure that the product performs well. As mentioned, we'll get into that form a little bit in a second when we start talking about the actual kits that we sell. Hold it there in just a second. And So these are the standards that carbon fiber, specifically HydraWrap, are recognized by these standards. They're DOT certified, and all the other ones listed here.
The product lines that we supply in kits for point repair applications are for weld, elbow, T, and spiral repairs. All the kits include sufficient quantities of the primer, the wet out, and the carbon fiber that is designated for that repair.
So they come in these diameters. Those are the standard sizes.
The Weld Wrap Kit is a 2-layer carbon fiber system. This is the only one that can get away with just the 2 layers. All the rest of the kits require a minimum of 4 layers. The elbow kit is basically designed 4 layers to go on a standard pipe elbow from weld point to weld point. The T kit is a 4-layer system designed for standard pipe tees from weld to weld and point on run and branch of T. The spiral kits is for a longer straight run of the piping.
And so this is a kit we offer that has a little bit of every size, or a lot of the different sizes. So we can ship these off to people if they don't know exactly what they need, but they have a general idea. This is a good solution for a lot of different repairs. It has everything you need in it. And then we also have the custom kits, which we mentioned earlier. And then you have to fill out a form basically describing your project, that telling us exactly what your problems are, the size of things, all of that. And we can help build basically what you need, because HydraWrap is very flexible in that way.
And why would you choose to use HydraWrap? HydraWrap compared to clamps, weld-on sleeves, or cut-out or replace methods, you're gonna have lower cost.
Yeah, as long as the pipe can be wrapped, is of substantial size, or the damaged portion is extensive enough, HydraWrap is generally going to be cheaper.
It's going to last longer.
Yeah, we actually had a third party do some testing. The pipe was wrapped and then put under for 10 years, brought back up, and the protected section was still being protected by HydraWrap. It was still in place, still holding strong after 10 years.
There's no downtime or hot work. There's no welding or anything that will be involved. Zero downtime.
Yeah, as long as there's no active leak. And as mentioned earlier, again, the customizable nature of HydraWrap is really good. And in some instances, we've even applied HydraWrap over previous repairs, which is shown below with this old clamp. And this is a more extensive list of the advantages. So you can see all of those. Some of the ones that weren't mentioned were chemical and corrosion resistant. It restores maximum allowed operating pressure to a system. A few other things there.
And basically the installation, you would only need common hand tools in order to do the installation on this. There's no special tools required.
Yeah.
And all HydraWrap is installed by trained, experienced, certified contractors, and it is also supported by our technical and engineering staff.
So now we're going to go into some examples of different applications we've had in the past. And this is a structural repair we did for a wastewater treatment plant, the before and after shot of that. And this is an exterior repair we did a while back. Another external repair, but this one's on a more oddly shaped pipe. couple more external repairs. That's a spiral repair there. As we mentioned earlier, that's a specific kit we have that we spiral it along the pipe and overlap it that way. We did this internal repair on cooling water line. Pretty cool. Quick summary, the cost of these types of repairs are significantly less than direct replacement in most cases. The duration for installation is usually days, not weeks, and in most cases a better alternative than weld repairs or replace in kind. The HydraWrap is. All right, so let's switch it over to questions. We're gonna have, yeah, there's some lag, I can't tell. Okay, you're both on screen. And then I guess we'll unmute. It's not letting me. I believe you should be able to unmute yourself if you have a question. So go to your settings and hit unmute if anyone has a question.
Hey Caleb, this is Alex Garcia. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
So I have two questions. The first one is on the type of testing that was performed during that 10-year in-service inspection mentioned earlier. What type of tests were those?
So that was a test that was done by a third-party organization that included many manufacturers, and it was a 3, 5, and 10-year test where they simulated corrosion by machining out 80% of the wall. They would wrap the defective area with the number of layers required by the manufacturer. They would then bury these samples, remove them from being buried over the 3, 5, and 10-year period, and take them up to burst test and find out whether or not the composite repair had leaked, or if the burst was outside the zone of the repair.
Okay, so it wasn't testing on the actual installation at the plant or for your client. It was a simulated testing 3 to 5 and 10 years out, correct?
Correct. It was
okay.
Sponsored by the Pipeline Research Council.
Okay. And then my second question is, you mentioned that for these kits, it's only with use of common hand tools. So how would you control for weight to resin ratio of the wet layup carbon fiber to ensure adequate saturation of the material?
Yeah, so the kits that we spoke about, the epoxy is pre-measured, so it does avoid any use of scale. It's what we call a 1-to-1 from a container. So you have the appropriate hardener and resin measured out. There is on the technical data sheets, there is a ratio for applying the wet out to the fabric. That can be verified in the field with a scale. Calculating, you should know based on how much fabric you're using, how many grams of weight that would be involved in the saturation of the fabric. For larger jobs, we obviously provide that as well, as far as what the ratio should be.
Okay, thank you.
This is Joe Kindler. I have two questions. One, what kind of preparation do you have to have on whatever it is that you're wrapping? Does it have to be like steel? If it's steel, does it have to be sandblasted? What do you have to do to prepare before wrapping?
Yeah, so like any coating, surface prep is critical. And yes, if you're going to look at our tech data sheets, it's going to mention abrasive blasting on steel surfaces. Not to say that all projects can do that. There are hand tools, power hand tools that can provide a sufficient profile, but your longer service lives are going to be achieved with the better surface prep, and if you can abrasive blast, that would be preferred. Obviously, it's not conducive to all repairs, especially small point repairs, but there are tooling out there that can provide a very similar profile to what abrasive blast is doing.
Understood. And the second question, what is the cure time back when you can put something back into service?
So if it's a through wall defect, we typically recommend 24 hours before you're applying it, pressure back onto the pipe. Obviously, one of the advantages of these, if you've got internal corrosion or just have problems with certain piping from external corrosion, but you do not have any active leaks, you certainly can apply the carbon fiber while you're in service and pressurize. In fact, that actually helps reduce the amount of layers if you are applying it to a pressurized system. But as far as cure times, the epoxies typically at your ambient temperatures of all the testings done at 68 degrees Fahrenheit, you have about 20-minute work time on the epoxy systems and a tack-free time of about 4 hours. Those two times will obviously fluctuate whether or not it's ambient temperatures are colder or or lower in that regards. And as we mentioned, all these systems that we briefly talked about are all ambient cure with the exception of the high temp system. That does require a post cure to achieve its ultimate physical properties.
Understood. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, well, I appreciate everybody's attendance on this, and if you do have any questions in the near future, you can either reach out to myself, Caleb Rutledge, or Mike Fox, and if we don't have the answer, we will definitely get it for you.
Yep. And the contact form on the website is also a good way to reach in. If you don't have anyone's contact, the contact form, we'll send them directly to myself, and then I can review them and send them off to wherever they need to go if you don't know the person you're trying to contact. So the contact form on the website would be the best option. All right.
Jennifer, Dave Badge, I have one more question. Have you guys done this on new construction where typically in water valves, they'll bring the water pipe up through a structure, basically a manhole, and at the bottom is the weak spot because water inflow gets in there, it sits in there, and right at the top of the pipe, at the interface between the pipe and the bottom of the manhole, that's where it starts to rust. Have you done these on new construction for that piece, that riser piece that comes up inside the manhole?
No, Dave, I can't attest to doing that type of application. Typically, it's not used in new construction. About the only new construction application I can recall was a bunch of new pipe installed where all the welds were not inspected or tested, and the decision was to reinforce all the weld areas with a composite, and that's probably the only new construction application I can recall. Obviously, what you described, I guess the concern would be with the surface. Obviously, we have a system that we mentioned, the subsea, that is suitable for wet environments or even submerged applications. But that would certainly be the challenge of the application you described. It sounds like it would be surface prep wise, it would be constantly wet.
Typically they're wet when it rains, and when the crews go out to a water valve, then they will either have to pump all the water back out of that. We have other methods, better methods for trying to seal it to where it doesn't leak in, but there's a lot of old stuff out there that leaks. Metropolitan Water District encapsulates all their valves above the base in concrete, and so every time you go to get back in there, then you have to chip all that concrete away beforehand before you can go inside the pipe to use the Hydrotite seals to repair the pipelines, and then you have to cover it back up with concrete again.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else? All right, like I said, any questions that you may come up with after we end the meeting, you can reach out to myself or Mike or Caleb or the website. And a lot of you have our contact emails already. So I really appreciate it, and I thank you all, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Yep. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
Thanks, guys. Very informative.
Thank you.